Live from WTOC, the Southeast News leader. The News Now starts on WTOC Plus.
Thanks for joining us here on WTOC Plus. Happening right now, students at Groves High School are walking out to protest ICE activity in Georgia. Here's video of the scene from just a couple of minutes ago. Now, organizers tell us that a last-minute protest was called in Savannah to condemn violence against protesters and the Trump administration's calling up of ICE in Savannah, and to also speak out for Renee Good and many more. They say that the rally has been organized by students at Groves High School. We also received a statement from the school district, which says in part that they have been notified that some high school students may want to express their right to peacefully assemble to bring awareness to some national issues. The district went on to say, while this type of activity is not a district-sanctioned or sponsored event, they will work with students to offer guidance in the spirit of safety and to minimize disruption to the greatest extent possible. Our Stephanie Atkinson is at the scene right now. She'll have more on this later during the news right here on WTOC. Well, this is just into our newsroom this afternoon. Police are investigating after a man pulled out a BB gun at the Walmart in Statesboro. Statesboro PD said it happened during a custody dispute at the Walmart on Northside Drive. According to Statesboro Police, the situation is under control and the woman and the child are safe with SPD officers. They also said that thankfully there were no injuries and everyone is safe. This investigation is ongoing, and SPD are asking for residents to be patient for further news on the situation. We have a major update on the push to bring a controversial nickel refinery to Bryan County. This morning, the Bryan County Development Authority voted to cut off talks with the company Westwind Elements. The meeting started at 8 o'clock this morning, and despite the early hour, the room was almost overflowing with residents from Richmond Hill. And the result of the meeting was a unanimous vote by the DABC to end discussions with Westwind Elements. Bryan County Attorney Aaron Kapler first made a presentation to the board, outlining the board's legal authority over the project and what the public input process would have to look like in order for the board to issue bonds. Westwind Elements has already drafted paperwork for the Development Authority of Bryan County to issue $230 million worth of taxpayer-funded bonds. However, after weeks of intense public backlash, board members Gene Wallace, who's also on the Bryan County Board of Commissioners, introduced the motion to rescind any incentives, offers, proposals, and requests related to bonds with Westwind, and to notify Westwind and the Georgia Department of Community Affairs of the board's decision, and that motion passed unanimously.
No amount of money that this project will generate is worth that. You know, I hear things like this project is safe. Yeah, it is safe until they aren't. And then it's too damn late.
Over a dozen residents also spoke against the project in the public comment portion of the meeting. Many of them were waiting for that board to make their decision. We should also note nobody spoke in favor of Westwind Elements. We did have a crew there. Our Shay Schrader will have more on this afternoon during the news on WTOC+. Well, Chatham County Police are investigating after a woman lost more than $76,000 due to scammers. According to police, the victim got a phone call on Friday from someone she didn't know saying that her bank account had been compromised and that she needed to withdraw all of her money immediately. Police said the victim then withdrew $32,000 from a Truist Bank on Wilmington Island and handed that cash to someone she had never met before in the parking lot. She then went to a bank on Durin Avenue, withdrew $34,000, and gave the cash to a second person she didn't know in the parking lot, according to CCPD. The woman then traveled to a third bank, which was on Mall Boulevard, withdrew $10,000, and handed the cash to a third person she didn't know in the parking lot. In total, she lost $76,500 in cash to those scammers. CCPD says they receive almost weekly reports of scams, and to avoid being scammed, your best defense is to be skeptical of anyone who contacts you and says there's an issue involving your finances. You should never act or give any information until you have independently verified their claims. Don't give in to pressure, threats, or coercion. And if you have been scammed, you're urged to report it to police and your bank as soon as possible. Well, one inmate is dead after an altercation at Smith State Prison. The Georgia Department of Corrections confirmed that to WTOC this afternoon. Officials say Nicholas Schaefer, who was serving 20 years for kidnapping out of Newton County, died after an altercation with another inmate on February 8th. GDOC officials say the body has been turned over to the county coroner and is being taken to the GBI crime lab. This death is being investigated as a homicide. Well, continuing coverage, the South Carolina Supreme Court is set to hear oral arguments tomorrow in the high-profile appeal of convicted murderer Alec Murdaugh. The disgraced attorney is serving 2 life sentences for the June 2021 killings of his wife Maggie and son Paul. His attorneys claim he did not receive a fair trial, arguing the verdict should be thrown out because jurors were improperly influenced by the now former clerk of court Becky Hill. In a 2024 hearing, a judge determined that although Hill made inappropriate statements to jurors, her comments did not lead to his conviction. Murdaugh's attorney says that is the wrong legal standard.
The standard is if an elected official, if a state actor, that would be her, says things to a juror or jurors in an effort to convince them to vote a certain way, that's all that's required.
Becky Hill resigned from her position as clerk of court and pleaded guilty to perjuring herself during the 2024 hearing. Murdaugh's lawyers are set to appear before the state Supreme Court tomorrow. Our Low Country reporter Aaron Dixon will be there with the latest. Well, this is something we had come into our newsroom right before our 1 p.m. show. The FBI has now released pictures of the suspects in the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping. Take a look at your screen right now. These are the pictures that the FBI released coming from their X account. Several pictures here that the FBI says they were able to recover from a doorbell camera that was initially corrupted or inaccessible due to a variety of factors, including the removal of recording devices. However, they were able to ultimately recover these pictures and a video as well. You can see a masked individual with gloves holding something in front of that doorbell camera. You can see this really the full shot right here. And again, the FBI just released this just over an hour ago, these 4 pictures right here. And at the same time, there's still no proof of life or any named suspect in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old who went missing from her Tucson home 10 days ago now. Daughter Savannah Guthrie posted another plea yesterday, calling it her family's hour of desperation, and an apparent second ransom deadline has now come and gone. CBS's Jonathan Viglotti is in Tucson with the latest.
We believe our mom is still out there.
Savannah Guthrie is now calling on the public for help as the search for her 84-year-old mother, Nancy, stretches into a second week.
If you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
Her plea posted several hours before the captor's second deadline from an alleged ransom note sent to news outlets last week. Kyle Vowinkle is a former FBI hostage negotiator.
It seems to me that the communications may have come to a halt, or maybe they made a decision not to send the money.
The FBI says it is not aware of any continued communication between the family and suspected kidnappers, or if the ransom note is credible. Over the weekend, Guthrie posted a message saying she and her siblings would pay the ransom, despite receiving no evidence of proof of life.
We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her, and we will pay.
On Sunday, investigators searched what appeared to be a septic tank on Nancy Guthrie's property. They're also zeroing in on a critical 41-minute window during which her home doorbell camera and pacemaker app were disconnected the night she disappeared.
What stands out to you specifically regarding the timeline that's been presented by the FBI?
So 40 minutes being engaging in criminal activity is a lifetime. So the fact that they were there that long implies to me that they're very comfortable in the area.
And the sheriff, in a statement yesterday, said they are now expanding their search. Investigators are expected back here to the home later on today. The FBI has a 24-hour command post, this as they continue to call on the public for help. Jonathan Vigliotti, CBS News, Tucson, Arizona.
Turning now to news under the Gold Dome. Right now, parents are pushing state lawmakers to pass what they feel is meaningful gun reform.
Gun safety is not gun control. Gun safety is gun safety.
Dozens of parents and students packed the state capitol, urging support for passage of a bill that bans switches. The devices can turn a handgun into a rapid-fire weapon. Lawmakers are divided on the bill. Some Republicans argue the problem isn't access to guns, it's mental health.
When it comes to what's going on with mental health, I think that's the key to it. The gun's not the enemy.
Democrats told parents they will take their messages into committee discussions at Georgia's state capitol. Staying in state news, a very scary moment on a busy suburban street near Atlanta. A small plane got into trouble in the air and suddenly had to land between cars, hitting several of them. But as Chris Van Cleve reports, fortunately, nobody was killed.
Ooh, what? Hey, are you seeing this? Come here, Bobby. A plane just crashed on the road.
Dramatic video showing the moment this small plane is forced to use a busy road in Gainesville, Georgia as an emergency runway, colliding with several cars as the pilot tried to land, frantically warning air traffic controllers he was in trouble.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. We're not going to make it. Please tell my wife, Molly, I love her, and my parents. I love them so much.
But they did make it. Everyone survived despite the damage to the plane and at least 3 cars north of Atlanta.
We lost our engine taking off out of Gainesville and tried to glide back, did everything by the book, but realized we weren't going to make it back with how far out we were. So came down the road.
A dramatic end during the lunch hour to a flight that started about 90 minutes earlier in Tennessee. The FAA says the pilot reported engine issues. The agency is investigating. First responders at the scene reported only minor injuries. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News.
Back here on the coast, homeowners and business owners may have to pay a new fire service fee in Statesboro. City leaders said last night that the new fee will charge residents and businesses on a monthly basis to help fund the fire department. Total fees are based on land usage and building size. City officials hope it helps with a $4 million funding gap from expansion and rising costs. The proposal comes after Statesboro Fire and Bullock County Fire ended an agreement in July of last year.
We've been working on this project for probably about a year and a half almost, but the city had a funding gap, and they were trying to look at innovative ways to make up that gap. So one of them was to raise taxes to generate money to fill that gap. The other one was to look at a fee.
City officials encourage all to attend future meetings to learn more. The first payment will be July 1st if this is ultimately passed. All right, the clock is now ticking to file your taxes, and Jen Sullivan explains some changes that could mean a lower tax bill and a higher refund this year. Take a look.
The deadline to file your 2025 taxes is quickly approaching.
I would just get it done as soon as possible.
Lisa Green-Lewis is a CPA and tax expert with TurboTax. Here's what she says you need to know. First, a higher standard deduction. That means more of your money is shielded from federal taxes. For single filers, it increases to $15,750, up from $15,000. For married couples filing jointly, it increases to $31,500, up from $30,000. Second, a higher state and local tax deduction, commonly known as SALT. It allows you to deduct your state and local income taxes or your state and local general sales taxes. That cap jumps to $40,000 from $10,000 for married couples filing together. You may also be able to deduct your property taxes as long as your income or sales taxes doesn't put you over that $40,000 cap.
In those high property tax states and state tax states, they'll be able to claim some more of those deductions.
Third, a larger tax credit for children. Parents can receive $2,200 per child. They must be under 17 at the end of the tax year, among other requirements. If you work in an industry where you get tips or overtime, there are some changes you need to know about. Eligible workers can deduct up to $25,000 in tipped income.
If you're a service worker, like a firefighter, police officer, you can deduct up to $12,500 in overtime.
Last year, the average refund was around $3,100, according to the IRS. With these new changes, some can expect an even higher refund.
We are expecting filers to see up to $1,000 increase in their refund or lower balance due.
The deadline to file your taxes is April 15th. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
All right, turning now to some pretty cool sports news. The Atlanta Braves are the longest-running franchise in Major League Baseball history, and that team played a big part in breaking baseball's racial barriers. And while he may not be a household name like Jackie Robinson or Hank Aaron, Bill Lucas was a trailblazer in the MLB. He was the first black general manager appointed in 1976 right here in Georgia for the Braves. Avery Braxton with our sister station shows us how the franchise continues to honor his legacy.
Swing and a drive, belted left center field, break out the tape measure, the Braves lead.
Bill Lucas broke baseball color barriers in a place fans never saw, the front office.
Every time I would say something to him about it, his response to me would always be, I'm a general manager who just happens to be black. That was every time I would try to make a big deal out of it, that's what he would say to me.
Bill Lucas Jr. reminisces about his father, a man who spent his entire career with the Braves. He started as a minor league player for the Milwaukee Braves in 1957, playing for 6 seasons before joining the Braves front office in 1965.
He went from public relations to assistant farm director to farm director and then ultimately general manager. So I just remember him every 2 years coming home saying he got a promotion. I always thought that was pretty cool.
Building his way up year after year until one day he was named the first black general manager in the major leagues.
He was definitely, my daddy. I got him my daddy. And so I used to come to the games, and I used to go hang out with him a lot of times in his box.
It was owner Ted Turner who trusted Lucas with his organization. Technically, Turner named him vice president of player personnel in 1976. But for all intents and purposes, Lucas built a dynasty. He was the mind behind signing and managing legendary names like Dale Murphy, Phil Niekro, and manager Bobby Cox.
But he had a plan, and he knew if he built the team within and brought in the right coaches and the right personnel, that we could change, that they would change and they would rise.
Lucas implemented his plan for just 3 years before he passed from a brain hemorrhage shortly after watching his beloved Braves make history.
Phil Niekro won his 200th win. And I remember my dad getting up, going on the phone in the room, and I watched the whole game with him, and he called up and ordered champagne to the clubhouse there. They were out of town. And I just always remember that point. Last thing he said to me was, he said, go ahead, girl, go ahead and go to bed.
The Braves never forgot. His legacy lives on with current Braves executives meeting in the Bill Lucas conference room. A softball field at DeKalb County's Gresham Park carries his name, and the Bill Lucas Fellowship trains young minority professionals for front office careers.
I mean, I don't think those are people you forget. I mean, he was the first black general manager in all of baseball. Like, he paved ways and pathways for people that nobody else did. So he deserves it in every way.
Danielle Badassi works for the Atlanta Braves Foundation. She helps preserve Lucas's legacy.
They're getting a chance to have that pathway into baseball that Bill had, and really to do it in his name is, I think, just a tremendous honor. I think it would be something that he would be proud of.
Lucas's Braves Hall of Fame plaque hangs in Truist Park's Monument Garden. His widow, Ruby, and daughter, Wanya, have served on the board of directors for Braves organizations. More than 46 years after his death, Bill Lucas and his family are still Atlanta Braves.
I think I feel pride, and I feel love. I mean, the Braves are our family and have been our family.
Avery Braxton, Atlanta News First.
All right, finally here on WTOC Plus, the long journey for 19 Buddhist monks who walked across the country to spread peace and unity is almost over. This is a story we've been following for a number of months here. on WTOC Plus. They started in Texas, walked across Georgia and South Carolina, and moments ago they arrived in Washington, D.C. Their first stop was the Washington National Cathedral, where they are speaking right now, taking some questions. This is a live feed, and we're going to go ahead and listen into it here for a few moments on WTOC Plus.
With this conscientious commitment out of compassion to ensure justice and promote really the well-being, safety, and security of people who are in trouble, endangered. But I'm just a stupid monk, so I don't really know very much.
Hello, on behalf of the United Tribes, we have a question. What is your message for our children and our next 7 generations?
Children, for me in this world, not just the United States, but I think we lead our children to a different path already. It's because we live in this world dependent on technologies too much, way too much. Look around us in our family. A child will have an iPad, iPhone, smart tab, things like that. The more they use it, the more they'll be sidetracked because a lot of distractions around on social media, on the internet and everything. And like us, I talked about earlier, the phone is always a problem because we depend on it too much. Imagine how many phone numbers we remember back there. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, how many phone numbers we be able to memorize? The whole phone book? Probably. How about now? How many phone numbers that we actually memorize by heart? Probably 3, 4, 5 phone numbers. So what is the problem? I believe it's because we depend on technologies. Back then you have to dial the number within our head. We have to use this head, say the number, and we dial it by hand. Now, tap, 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 Nikki, Ken, just put the letter N and K, it will show up everything, and then we just dial. We lose in our memories each and every time. And that is how we train our children to go on the same path. And sadly, for me, my point of view and what I can see, our future generation will have a big problem. So in order for us to change our future generation, we have to start, become a role model for our kids from now. Stay away from the phone as much as possible. There's nothing wrong with it, don't get me wrong. It's just that we depend on it and we use it way too much. Versus before, we didn't even have one, we still survive. And now probably we could not survive if we don't have one. Imagine if there's internet outage and we're gonna call the internet company and complain all day long because of no internet. We could not survive. It's very difficult for us. So dependent on technologies is going to kill us. Our brain, our mind is shrinking every day. Back then, we can use our head to calculate a math. How about now? We have to use a calculator. We have to use a phone to calculate a very simple math. Just that alone, we are leading our children to a very, very wrong direction. So if we could, starting from here on, we need to train our children again, not to depend on technologies too much. Thank you.
My question is simple. How do we become more intentional about morality?
More morality. Well, for us as a Buddhist monk, we practice mindfulness every day. Like I mentioned about it, if we are mindful enough, we know what we should and what we shouldn't do. Without mindfulness, we could commit into a lot of things, right? So we always have to train ourselves to have mindfulness, to be aware of everything happening around us, what's popping up in our head. The more we stay focused and aware, the better we are. And mindfulness is the answer, the key that we need to practice. To be honest with all of us here, mindfulness is missing, and people been living without mindfulness. It's very tough for all of us. We missed out mindfulness. Because of unmindful, we have done a lot of things. All the things happening around us is also because of unmindful. So we need to train ourselves to be mindful, to know what we should and what we shouldn't do. Thank you.
What is your response to Christian nationalism? And say a word to all religions at this time, particularly Christians in this country.
For me, after 17 years of ordaining, I respect all religions. And I'm very grateful to take on this journey to walk that far from Fort Worth, Texas to here. And I'm very grateful that all churches open the door to host us, to give us food, to give us a place to live, to stay overnight. And we are here in this beautiful church, in this very holy place. So for me, I have never talked about religions, regardless of what they talk about Buddhism. It doesn't matter to us it really doesn't matter to us what they say, what people say. But for us, when we practice, we respect all religions. Because to me, all religions teach people how to live, how to be a better person in this society, how to support society, and how to support this country, our country where we live in. And of course, earlier at the church, the pastors told me that there's over 100 kids studying every day, go to school there every day, and of course all churches, all places, all temples are also teaching our future generation to be a better person in this world. So for us to talk on behalf of all the religions, I don't have that knowledge. But I do have one thing that I share along the road. I said, we have different backgrounds, different beliefs, different religions we practice in every day. But after all that practicing, we go into the church, we go into the temple, all reverend, all pastor, all venerable monks, all gurus, all teachers are teaching people how to be good. But in common, after all that, we do have one religion in common, which is the religions of love and kindness, compassion, and peace that we are seeking for every single day. We worshiping every single day, and that temple, that church is within our mind. So that is the answer that I could answer. I respect all religions. And now that we are in this church and out there so much, and right here so much faith leaders joining us, this world should be like this for me. It should be like this. There's no need to be separate or any division at all whatsoever. Thank you.
Well, that was an extended look at the 19 Buddhist monks from the Walk for Peace movement. They arrived at the Washington National Cathedral just about an hour ago after their months-long journey that started in Fort Worth, Texas. They walked across the state of Georgia, up the state of South Carolina, all with the goal of making it to Washington, D.C. in February. They reached that goal today, walked their final 10 miles to the Capitol, and they have a number of different events and speeches going on. Of course, you could hear them talking a little bit about mindfulness and advice for kids and the future generations. Tomorrow as well, the Walk for Peace will officially conclude at the Lincoln Memorial at the nation's capital. And with that, we are going to conclude this show here on WTOC Plus. Thanks for spending part of your afternoon with us. We'll be back in just about 30 minutes for Welcome to Our Community with Dawn Baker. You can always check out our website for the latest updates in the meantime at WTOC.com. Thanks for watching, and here's Local News Live.